Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Start with Chris, add a dash of sport, squeeze in some music, then shake, don't stir. And you've got the ultimate blend, LTID, with your host, Chris.
Hello, good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good day, goodbye. How the devil are you all? Welcome along to Leicester Till I Die TV. How are you? Are we getting used to the championship or the thought of the championship yet? I have been checking my sat nav for Rotherham and Plymouth, and it does give me a stop off at Gorinda's house. So hey, we're all going to Gorinda's for a party next season. I hadn't realised that they do say that the effect it has on the club and on the city as well. Players are obviously the obvious ones, but also staff. But I've realised that I'm probably going to lose my BBC contributor status because they're only concentrating on the Premier League. And that intro that you've just seen, I'm going to have to redo that because it says Premier League on it. I mean, what the top? You're causing me so much work, it's untrue. But look, this is LTIDT from Leicester Till I Die. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Thank you for joining us and watching. Please do get your comments in the chat, and we'll try and include as many of those as we can. For those of us that are listening on what is apparently the biggest podcast platform in the country, which is YouTube, welcome along, and thank you for lending me your ears. And if you are listening on your own podcast on Catch Up, because it's live on YouTube podcast, I don't know what the difference is because it just looks just the same to me. But if you are on the old Spotify, Google, Apple, iTunes, whatever it's called these days, thank you for lending me your ears. You are most welcome. And if you're rich buggers and have got smart speakers, just ask it to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die. And of course, you can find us on all our socials there as well, either as LTID TV or Leicester Till I Die. Going to be talking in a couple of weeks. Once we know where we're going to be next season, but once it's all confirmed, we're going to be redoing the channel, looking at the shows we do. We've got some new presenters that will be joining us over the next few weeks, ready for the next season. And we've got some, do we say old? I better be careful because I don't want him to hurt me, but some old presenters that are returning. But tonight it is the debate show, and this has been renamed to Let's Talk Leicester. As always, we start off with one topic, and we're going to bring you in, guys, in if you've got different topics. We may not bring it up straight away, but what we'll do is star them and bring them in as we go along. A few hellos just to start with. Hi, Fields, how the devil are you, sir? I'm looking forward to him switch away again. Plymouth's not so far, actually. I've got to be honest with you. If Plymouth in the Championship, I've got Southampton anyway. Whatever happens, I've got Southampton. Mike, good evening on Modding Duty again. Here's to a good string. Good evening, young Michael. Hope you are well. I still say don't know what happened there. And Nate is in from the good old US of A. How the devil are you, sir? Or as we like to call it, of course, Trumpland. But you are welcome, one and all. Right, let me get my guests in. We've got a few. We've got two. Now, the first person is a lot younger than me, but his memory's going. So we're going to say, welcome, Brad, to the prediction show, and let's bring him in. Welcome along, Brad. How the devil? Can I take your first prediction, please?
Sorry, who are you again? What am I doing here?
Well, I've been asking that question for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Indeed. You do know that it is Wednesday today, don't you?
Apparently, I've been informed by yourself and others that today is Wednesday and not prediction day. Got 2 games. Oh, it's European games tonight, isn't there? The old Champions League. No one cares about that. We're not involved.
No,
it's just
very overrated.
yeah.
Very overrated.
It's
give me
just
the
one
Papa
small Manchester side playing some Spanish giants. So
Yeah. And I say it isn't all these cracked up to be. Give me the Papa John's trophy anytime.
free pizza, mate, over that any day of the week. Champions League don't do that, do they? You see?
No. And I'm going to say we're going to welcome back now a legend in his own mind. I was thinking how I could bring this guy back with an introduction that serves him well. And there's only one thing I could think of doing.
You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV with Chris and Chums. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's Leicester Till I Die TV.
Oh, there we go. How the devil are you, sir?
Good evening, chaps. How are you?
Welcome back. I'm so glad you don't live locally. What I mean, nobody else has got their own introduction like that.
Well, there you go. You see, I must mean a lot to you guys, eh?
Well, when I say nobody else has got their own introduction, we've still got this. There we go, just for Brad. But have you been keeping well, young Josh?
I have, mate. Yeah, a lot going on. A lot of personal things, hence why I've not been on the show for a while. But yeah, everything's sort of working out on its own now. So it's looking a lot better, mate. Yeah, I'm getting there, but I don't think obviously Leicester season ain't really helped, to be honest.
That's kicked over the edge. But like I say, a few things have changed. The look of the channel, has changed. New presenters, like I say, coming in for next season, and they'll be starting in a couple of weeks' time. And different shows, like I say, different looks and different channels, which we can't say quite at the moment, can we, Brad? But there are new channels afoot.
Yeah, that there is.
Of course, since you've last been in, we've had Gurinder.
I'm Premier League. I am elite. I am proper elite. No. I am Gurinder.
Oh, what the love we have for Gurinder is untrue.
And don't forget the life of Brian as well.
No. I did see you play that clip the other day. I seen you. I can't remember what review show it was though, and it did make me laugh. It was it's unbelievable, really, isn't it?
It was. It is a great. It was just 10 minutes of us corpsing, wasn't it, Brad? Well.
Pretty much. I mean, we could be unprofessional at the best of times when we plan it, but we could not help ourselves then. When you were playing it, I'll whack myself. When she said, "I am Gurinder, I am elite," I was like, Jesus Christ, she's going to go to AEW.
I need to clip this, but what were you expecting?
Pardon? Raw? Oh, yeah, I was expecting to say, "My name is Gurinder, hear me, bro." I thought she was going to go on a Katy Perry mission or something.
All I would say is, come on, Middlesbrough. Going down, I can just about accept. Going down with Forest staying up hurts. Going down with Forest staying up and Coventry coming up, well, that's hell on earth, isn't it? Anthony is in. Facebook user, please stick your name at the end, mate, so I know who you are. But your comment is there. Neil is in. Good evening, Neil. I'd rather talk about sewerage water than LCFC at the moment. I didn't think Leicester was that bad, to be honest with you. I thought, Peter Salisbury is back. All is right with the world. It's been a disaster. Yes, it has, totally. Top has been loyal to certain people. He should have gone in the summer. We're going to be covering, of course, all these topics. Big Ant's in. Good evening, Ant. How are you? I did speak to your brother. He was on the channel. Josh Brad said he'll beat you in an arm wrestle.
More than likely would. It's just for show.
He was. I think Brad was talking about one of the dolls that you've made of yourself. What was it in the 70s?
Rock and Sock and Robots is what I was after. Got more chance of winning on that one. Don't worry. Unlike Anthony Joshua, I won't duck the fight, mate. I'll see you in Vegas for an arm wrestle.
Anthony, as well, I did pass it on via Richard. I don't know whether he passed it on to you or not. If it's anything like you, he probably didn't. But I did apologise to him for the comments. Stretch Armstrong, that's the one. That's the wrong. And look, Brad's showing off now just because he's managed to get the logo up.
I know, I'm like a kid with a new toy. Look, watch, look. There it is, there it goes, there it is, there it goes. I'll stop now, I'll behave before Gorinda comes and asks me with a slipper.
We can just do that. Anyway, Andrew, I wouldn't mind being replaced by Luton, to be honest with you. Better that than Coventry. Okay, look, let's get into this because it has been a season to forget. I mean, we did touch on this, Josh, before we came in. We're down, aren't we?
Oh, 100%, mate. 100%. I think personally, I mean, I thought a good month and a half, 2 months ago, I thought we were down then. You know, I know people were saying, obviously, we got rid of Brendan and it's sort of, blue skies are here again, but it was just too late, mate. 100% down, and I've been fully braced for it for quite a while now, to be honest.
I mean, Brad, I did a show with Dave recently, and I remember the time you two are way too young. But I remember the time we went down to League One, and there was an inevitability about it. So when it actually happened, it wasn't like we suddenly fell off the cliff with 10 games to go and we were mid-table before then. It was always, and it's been the same this year, and it's kind of like, let's just get it on over with.
Yeah, as I'll have you know, I wasn't all that young. I was a 19-year-old when we was in League One. In fact, I had a season ticket to the League One days, so I'm youthful in face, but not in reality, unfortunately for myself. But there was, wasn't there? There was.
I'm the same as well, Brad. I'm not that young, Chris. I wish I was, but I remember that. I went down.
Guys, take compliments. I don't think that many.
Well, yeah, that's true. But no, yeah, you're right. I mean, we mentioned it sort of over the past couple of weeks when we've talked about it, and we had 14th, 15th, 16th, 20th finishes in the Championship. We knew it was coming. Yeah. It's not happened in that period the way it did for the League One days, but it has felt like I've never felt truly confident that Leicester were going to turn a corner. And the longer the season went on, and the less times we managed to turn the corner, the more I started just accepting the fate that we're never going to turn this corner, and we were going to rely on 3 other teams being worse than us. And unfortunately, barring my dad, barring my dad casting another miracle on the earth, it looks like it's all but done.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, guys, seeing as you remember those times, Josh. 2003-04, we finished 18th in the Premier League. Mickey Adams was in charge, and then at the end, Bassett and Wilkinson took over because Mickey Adams left. He wasn't sacked, actually. He was one that wasn't sacked. He left. And then after that, like Brad alluded to there, we came 15th, 18th, and 19th. 15th, we had Basket case, Bassett and Wilkinson. And then Brad's favourite manager took over, Craig Levine. And then in 2005-06, Levine was in place until Rob Kelly took over. 2006-07, Rob Kelly was in charge before Worthington took over. And then in 2007-08, we had Martin Allen, who was replaced by Rudkin, Bighole and Stowell, who was replaced by Megson, who was replaced by Burrows and Taggart, who was replaced by Holloway. I'm surprised we went down. Like you say, there has been that inevitability, hasn't there?
100%, mate. 100%. I cast back to, I think probably the only show I've done this season is the watch along for the Brentford game, first game of the season. And I remember it was both saying at the time when, we were 2-0 up and you thought, you know what, we might have a decent crack at it this season. And then when they came back, made it 2-2, I think we both said at the end of the game, because we were literally hanging on for the point, we both said we could be in for a really long season here because I think, to be fair, I think the stone was set then, to be honest. You could sort of see we've sort of got players that are very much confidence players. When the going's good, we can play decent football and get results. But as soon as panic sets in and we start conceding goals, as we've seen all season, lads, they just drop arse and that's it. You just know the next goal's going to come, the next goal's going to come. So, yeah, it's been like it all season, mate. Like you say, you go back to the 07-08 season when we got relegated from the Championship, and it's strange. I was listening to another podcast today called Under the Cosh. If you ever get chance, if you ever listen to it, it's really good. They have ex-footballers on and stuff, and they'd got I was listening to a Martin Allen one, and he went through his time at Leicester. And he was saying just behind the scenes, it was an absolute mess. His squad size was huge, and there were no communication. And I think it's sort of a lot of parallels to that sort of time this season. I think there's stuff that there's not been communicated well with fans. Hence, Chris, you brought it up at the start of the season when Top didn't come out and say why we couldn't buy for quite a while, and it sort of left us all a bit confused. There's stuff that I don't think these things have been told. There's just a lot of confusion and a lot of obviously negativity at the minute, which you're going to get when you're being relegated from basically it's the best league in the world, isn't it? So it's been an absolute circus, to be honest. It really has.
Did he mention the fact that he wanted blue and white flowers everywhere, by Martin Allen?
No, he didn't. But I think he brings up Mandarich, and Mandarich was signing players left, right, and centre that he didn't want. He mentions that he had Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank at the Marriott Hotel in Leicester, and he turned up and says, "I'm signing for you today." And Martin Allen was like, "Oh yeah," he had no idea. So it's well worth a watch anyway. It's really good. It is really good. It gives you a good insight into.
I don't know what you mean about us having too many players, because I've actually got the squad that we started that season with. I don't think we've got too many players there, have we, Brad?
No, not enough, mate. That's only enough to fill half of Forest's dressing room this season. That's small fry numbers.
That is scary, actually. When I did that is scary. I mean, the players that just left the club during the season is quite a long list. As you can see, that'd be a squad on its own. But all I will say is that season, we didn't even actually have a number one. Some would argue that's the same this season, but I'm not going to be drawn into that. But look, Leicester for Life. Good evening. How are you? Trad Nichols says, "Does it feel like a?" Well, he said, "Does feel like a Peter Taylor year." Brad, I'll stick with you because I don't know if it does, because with Peter Taylor, I don't think we were expecting that, were we?
No, not until all the exploits that happened in his second summer, which was, he ripped the core of that team apart, didn't he? Walsh, go. Colin Moore, he didn't give a rat's arse about. Other players were chucked out the door. I mean, we were very fortunate that he couldn't, or actually saw a reason to keep hold of players like Izzet and Elliott, who eventually helped us bounce back up and serve us well for at least another couple of years, because you probably need that this time this year. Funny enough, we'll probably need, no matter if we pull off a great escape or in the Championship, we're probably hoping that there's a few players in that dressing room, i.e. Vardy. Maybe now we're at a desperate point where it's even Evans is included in that. That gives a hint to something that I've put forward in the preview show we'll do for the Newcastle game. But you
sure about that?
Well, maybe, I don't know. Depends what day it is, if I remember or not. But no, he's not done the exact same, but it almost feels like not being able to rebuild that squad. It's almost like the opposite effect of that has enabled the downfall of this squad. It's not been a case of ripping it apart for no good reason, which it was under Taylor. It's more of a case of he wasn't given the ability to rebuild and chuck out deadwood and his own deadwood for that matter with some of the players. So it's kind of the opposite to how Taylor ruined Leicester, isn't it? In a weird way, and it's funny how two things can have the same effect.
I mean, good evening to Scott, by the way, and the gentleman in the middle. I put his name up, but the guy in the middle it's Tyson. Don't upset. You don't want to upset Tyson. You don't want to see Tyson when he's angry. I tell you. You think the Hulk bursts out of his top? But I'll tell you what. When Josh is angry, his shorts don't stay on either. What can I just say? Much to his wife's pleasure. But
I was just about to say there's a comment there. There's a comment there. Give me a minute.
Josh, I mean, let's take it right back to last season. We'd started last season. We'd come off an FA Cup win, and let's be honest with you, that FA Cup win, we weren't brilliant. You know, I mean, we had the fantastic goal, of course we did, but we won VAR and Ben Chilwell's big toenail, you know, because I think if they'd equalised, I don't think we would have won that. But at the end of that season, you could see, I think we, you know, it was almost like plasters over an open wound because, you know, we'd somehow managed to finish 8th. We'd got through to a European semi-final, and everybody sort of thought, well, everything in the garden's rosy.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, obviously, you know, we couldn't sign anybody for reasons due to FFP and things like that. And I think a lot of us were sort of sitting there thinking, well, you know, we can't sign anybody, but we've got a decent squad. You know, we have got good players. You know, a lot of these players, as you say, won the FA Cup and finished, you know, 5th 2 seasons in a row. So there's no reason as to why we could have, you know, maybe not top 6. I thought that was well beyond our reach, regardless what was going to happen this season anyway. But I thought, you know, maybe we could finish, you know, 9th, 10th, and then see it through till summer. You know, bring new players in and ship out, you know, the lesser fancied ones, and then go again. But I mean, I can't really put my finger on where. Well, you can put your finger on where it's gone wrong, but I don't see how. You know, as I say, these are players that, you know, won the FA Cup, got through to, you know, semi-final of you know, it's the lesser fancied European competition, but it's European football anyway. You know, it will Roma that knocked us out. You know, they're no mugs. So, yeah. And I can't really understand how so many decent players have just completely regressed for us this season. It's beyond bizarre, really, and there's obviously got to be a massive reason as to why, and they're just completely down tools, isn't there? Pretty much, that's the only thing I can think of, really.
I mean, Brad, you've got to say, and we'll come on to Toppen this season in a bit. Josh has already alluded to it, but you've got to say, you know, he was trying to. We'd had that flirt with champions, you know, with Europe for 2 seasons running. He was trying to keep us still challenging for Europe. That's probably why we didn't sell Tielemans maybe when we should have done, because you wanted to try and go for that. And you've got to say, as fans, we'd have been disappointed if maybe he'd made cutbacks then.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but when any club goes through a very indigenous, I think that's the right word. I'm just trying to be clever there, right off the source this morning. When I go through a golden age, it's easy. I'll just say that. Stick to what you know, Brad. When I go through like a golden age, you have to look at where it went wrong for certain teams and where it ended. Because every good era, every good golden segment that a club has always comes to an end, no matter how good you are. Look at Fergie with Manchester United. Look at Jurgen Klopp in his spell with Liverpool. I mean, they've tated off this season, and they've done it a bit. They've tated off over the last few seasons because they've stuck with what they know. One thing we've always said on here, Chris, isn't it? Especially me and you, is Alex Ferguson didn't win all them trophies with the same 25 players. He was happy to rip a whole squad up that had reached its peak. He was brave. He would take them players out. He would churn them out of the club. He'd bring in new talent. He'd work them into the club. And then no Man United fan even batted an eyelid to, you know, oh no, where we're going to go without these defenders from 97, 98? Well, don't worry, we've got a Rio Ferdinand. Oh, what about when he retires? Well, don't worry, we've got an Amanda Vidic, and so on and so forth. And that was the flux for their success. That was the mainstay for their success. And if you look throughout history and in any sport, when a team has had a good era, the thing that's brought it to a sour note, like it looks like it's going to happen to Leicester's golden era this time, is they stuck with it too long. And the problem is, you can say what you like about them being professionals, they're on this much, they should be able to do it. You burn out. You listen to any retired star that talks about their past and their success, they say, I was just spent. I was gone. I had given 110% for 3 years, 3 seasons, however their sport works in that terminology. And then when we tried to do it again, and it was just too much. We couldn't. Even though we knew we had the talent to do it, we were just exhausted. And unfortunately for Leicester fans, Top had the choice of gamble or rebuild. And no Leicester fan at the start of the season, before it all kicked off, begrudged him gambling in it and saying, you've done it for so long, you can do it one more. The problem is, sometimes you push a team like that too far, and I think we just suffered from major burnout. I think that's what this entire team has suffered from, major burnout. Forget all the other little factors aside, like a certain dodgy signing that's just being mentioned there. The main core of that squad, the idols of that squad, the Vardys, the Tillemans, the Madisons, like you mentioned, and so on and so forth, they just hit the peak with Leicester. And unfortunately, gambling on one more year, wow, look where we are in the league for gambling on one more year instead of moving on. And that's just unfortunate.
It is. I mean, Josh, you've got to sort of say that Top, he's not taking us down the Leeds route. Okay, they gambled on European football and they went bust. I don't think we're in that sort of situation. I think Top's tried to keep us out of that sort of situation. But like Brad said, hindsight's a wonderful thing, especially if you pour baked beans in your eyes. Oh, it's a good one, and I will use it until it's not funny. All I can say.
Maybe we could live without the wisecracks.
I think
I'm telling you, you're starting on less and less points for this joke off with Doug if I'm still the judge.
But there was a fear of we could do that, because we cannot compete, can we, with the we were finishing 5th, and can I just say, no disrespect to Anthony, who wasn't one of these, but all the Arsenal fans that were saying that Leicester City had bottled Champions League football. Yes, Arsenal. Talking about bottling, where are you at the moment? But look, I enjoyed that. But we went for it, didn't we? But we can't seriously compete as much as some fans, and every club has them, and Leicester as much as anybody else. As some fans think that we should be up there and we now should be eating at the top table every season. We simply cannot. Newcastle wouldn't be where they were if they didn't have the money. Yes, we've got investment. Of course we have. And Rochdale would look at us and go, bloody hell, Leicester City have got rich owners. But we're not in that bracket, are we?
I think you're right. You are right about we're not in that bracket. I mean, the owners are, they've clearly got money, but I think you can compete, but it's being very shrewd in your business. Now, this season, obviously, we won the league. We got a scout in Steve Walsh who scouted N'Golo Kante. Season before that, he brings in other players. Season before that, he brings in Riyad Mahrez. So you can compete to a certain extent, but you've got to have the backroom staff that can spot players and say, yeah, these are going to do a job for us. These are going to do a job for us. So you can compete like that. But I think having that ability and competing like that, you can only do it for so long, because as we found out, the season after we won the Premier League, we were in a relegation battle. Then pretty much, I'd say a good half of this season at least. But you are right without major backing, and I mean levels of Man City, Newcastle now, without that sort of money and investment, you're not going to be able to consistently do it, which I think we will see Newcastle doing that each and every season now. It genuinely wouldn't surprise me if the likes of them it wouldn't surprise me if they win the league in the next 4 or 5 years. I think something like that is going to come for them. I think you know, I mean, in as you say, in hindsight now, and I'm not going to repeat the joke that you said. I think looking at it now and looking back, and you think at the time, you know, finishing fifth was a bit of a disappointment for us because we were sat in the Champions League places for so long during them 2 seasons. But you look back now and you think, God, they were. You know, we did brilliant to finish fifth. You know, considering you got the likes of Tottenham, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool. We did really well. I think it's just going to keep getting worse, though, mate. To be honest with you, not for Leicester personally, but I think other teams, the bigger teams, are going to look at your Newcastles now and think, we really need to book our ideas up and we really need to seriously spend. And I think the days of say smaller teams like us, I don't like admitting that we're a smaller team, but compared to the top 6, we are. I don't think you'll ever see a fairy tale like ours ever. Not in our lifetime, anyway, because the big 6 won't allow it, and I don't think the Premier League are going to allow it. And that's not me saying conspiracy theorist sort of thing, but I think the big six teams get favoured a lot, and I think you can add Newcastle into that mix now. I think it's going to be a big 7 more than anything. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, mate, I'm more than happy that I've been around to witness. We have had success over the last 10 years. It's been incredible, but unfortunately, it looks like our race is ran for now. We'll be back, definitely. I think we'll be back, but I think it might take quite a while.
I think you're Gurinder in disguise. Little old Leicester. She didn't like that. Don't let her hear you say that. But Brad, I mean, James says that top 10 is a great season for us at a club. And Craig always says this story that when he used to go and see Leicester under Martin O'Neill with his son Scott, and he said to him, "Remember these times because they may never be this good again." And I was talking to my son, and I said to him about this run we've just been on. We've won that thing. We've won the FA Cup. We've won the Community Shield. I've actually seen my team. I saw them win the League Cup, but to see them win the Community Shield at Wembley, these have been great times. But we may not see them again, but we have seen them. And there's not many clubs that have, and we should be grateful. But yes, top 10. Will we get any ideas above our station?
I don't think we were. I think we were the original blueprints for what teams are going to need to do, because Josh talked there about maybe realising actually fifth was a fantastic season. If you really look back over it, it really was, because I remember, and I know we kind of joked about it, saying, before the fixtures come out, obviously it won't be next season, unless, like I said, unless a miracle happens. But for the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've been getting Man City and Liverpool round about Christmas, Boxing Day sort of thing every season. And take me back sometimes, because who would have, if you'd have told me right back in, was it 14-15 when we got promoted, or was that the Great Escape year? I always get confused.
14-15 was the Great Escape.
Yeah, if you'd have told me back then, right after we just pulled off the Great Escape, that Leicester were going to be not only playing in this newfound Conference League, but they'd be in the Champions League, let alone the quarterfinals of it, better than Man City did that year or any other English club. Leicester would win the Premiership. I'd have had to throw you in the loony bin. I mean, let's not forget, like you say, enjoy these things. I think we were in the right momentum and doing all the right things. I mean, everybody wants to throw a spanner at us and go, "Oh yeah, but you were the team that was in top 4 the longest, and then you choked it near the end." Yeah, and you lot were scratching your heads and pulling at straws, wondering who's going to stop Man City or Liverpool winning the league for 3 years, because Leicester was at second. Leicester were the only team that were landing the glove on either of them 2 clubs for 2 or 3 years. So, boy, if someone had said that to me, that's what you're going to see over the next 8 years, even if it ends in relegation on this one. Let me relive it. I'll spend another 10 years in the Championship and do it all over again if it results in the exact same thing happening in 20 years' time. Damn right I will, mate. Because there is teams out there that have never seen it and may never see it in their lifetime. They may never see a Johnston's paint, a Papa John's trophy, let alone League Cups and FA Cups. You know what I mean?
It's only because they want a piece of the action.
Hey, there you go. Oh, for God's sake. Oh.
Maybe we could live without the wisecracks.
Some of your jokes are just a bit cheesy, aren't they, mate? That's tone drop.
So I like to bring people down to my level. That's what it is. I mean, Josh, I've just written down here as Brad was talking. We were looked upon, and I put this in my Tuesday talking point a few weeks ago, that Leicester City used to be the blueprint for how clubs wanted to be run like. We were the model that other clubs were looking at. Now it's like a model you buy and there's pieces missing. But would we now have the Brighton, the Brentford, the Villa this season if Leicester hadn't, or let's include Spurs in that because they've never won anything. But would these clubs be where? Sorry, Spurs fans. Would those clubs like the Brightons and the Brentfords, Fulham, we'll see because they've only just come up, but they are now. They've kind of taken the mantle on, haven't they?
I think so, yeah, and I think you are right, especially the season obviously we won the league, and there were a lot of other fans, of smaller teams. Let's say, no disrespect to any of the clubs that you just said, because you look at them now and they are, they're challenging for top 8, top 7, some even top 6. So I think they did look at us and they were envious because we had, as I say earlier, a brilliant scouting network, owners who just did everything they could for the fans, for the club. And just the whole vibe around the club was just positive, and then, after that, obviously we had I think season after that, like I say, we threatened relegation and stuff, and then obviously getting rid of Claudio. But the only thing, I think up until this season, you could probably go into last season as well. I think every decision that the owners made and obviously, Top on his own now, bless him, has made is sort of his. If you look back in hindsight now, there's that word again, and say, you know what, it was the right decision. It may not have felt it at the time, like when we got rid of Claudio, I was devastated. But looking back now, you think there's a good chance we'd have been relegated then, to be honest, because we were just on a downward trajectory. But yeah, I think you're totally right, mate. I think I wouldn't say it's just purely down to us, but I think the way the club's been run for the last. Ever since the owners come in, to be honest, I think it has made other teams and other clubs maybe look at us. I've just said that. Look at us and say, as you say, mate, that's how a club should be run, and they're picking up little things off us here and there. So, which can only be a good thing, really, because as much as I've hated watching us completely capitulate this season, I've enjoyed watching, your teams like your Brentfords and. Your Fulhams and even Villa too. I can't stand Villa, but the football they play has been fantastic. So we have seen some good. Definitely, 100%. I reckon if they can kick on again next season, I fully expect them to be in top 6. I think they've been brilliant, as of the other teams. So as much as it's been an awful season personally for us being Leicester fans, it's good to see the smaller teams than not the big 6 that are up there challenging, especially Brighton. They've been absolutely unbelievable. So hopefully things like that will continue. It just makes football a lot more interesting.
Yes, yeah. Brad, all right. We know Brendan's got his faults. We know he's ripped the heart out of the players. Why wasn't he knocking on doors, asking for contracts to be put in front of them, etc., etc., etc. But should he have gone at the end of last season?
I think in a weird way he should have, because again, you talk about a team coming to the end of its era. I think maybe, and again, sentiment plays a big part in what's gone wrong at Leicester, unfortunately. And it's not nice that it is, because you'd like to say that faith was paid in the players and the manager for all they've achieved, and they should answer back with many thanks on the football pitch, and we haven't seen that this season, unfortunately. But yeah, maybe what do they always say? You want to go out on a high on your career. FA Cup, it's taken us to a European semi-final. This club may never go to a European semi-final again in either any of our lifetimes or any three of our lifetimes. We may never see that again. And if I'm a manager and I take my Leicester hat off for a moment, say I'm like Thomas Frank, how long will he stay at Brentford for? Will he guide them into Europe? Will he do 2 seasons, or will he look at that season and say, well, you know what, we finished, let's talk future for them. Let's say they finish 15th, stay up by the skin of their teeth, but they do okay in Europe. Will he then go, oh no, let's try again, we can do it? Or will he go, you know what, I've given you European dream, it's someone else to do now, and move on? And maybe Brendan should have done that. Maybe he peaked, things that he, because now he's tarnished his own record as well as us. I mean, it's got so bad for him. He's had to wait for 7 interviews, potential managers to turn down before he's the number 1 choice for Spurs. So it's got that bad for him. Spurs are desperate for him. So at least they'll be in the Championship next year when we get promoted. But yeah, maybe he should have. Maybe he should have seen the warning signs and bailed out then.
I think I said right at the start, didn't I, Josh, that maybe it was sticking a plaster over an open wound, the signs. We had a good end of season last year, but that didn't hide the fact that up until that point we were fighting relegation even then. But I always say, Josh, West Ham seem to be a club that seem to follow us in everything we do. And this season has been the same. They're in a European semi-final, almost probably got 1 foot in the final, but they've only just stayed up by the skin of their teeth. So next year they'll probably get relegated. Again, the rumours are that Moyes may be going in the end of the season anyway. But would it? Do you think we would have had these problems had we? Because everybody was saying. I mean, everybody said Claudio when he came in. Claudia Winkleman said about Claudio when he came in that he's a 1-season manager. He comes in, he has a good season, and then he trails off. And everybody was saying about Brendan. 3 seasons and that's it. Should he have gone in your eyes?
I mean, personally, it were after the Forest FA Cup game went off at the time, and I remember messaging you about it, saying that's it for me, he's got to go. And even then, you sort of think, well, we weren't doing that bad in the league. Was that last season? Yeah, it'd have been last season. Yeah, last season. Yeah. At the time, we weren't doing that, but I think we were like floundering around mid-table. Performances weren't great, but I think that the only thing that I don't think he'd have left on his own accord, purely for the fact that no matter what, I mean, his severance pay, from what we've heard, is mega money, really. I mean, to get that much money if you get the sack, it's ridiculous. I don't think any of us would mind getting the sack ever again if we were getting that sort of money.
Give me the job now. I'll quit tomorrow. I can sack me tomorrow if that's the payoff.
It was as big as everybody was saying, because he only literally had his contract ran out in a year's time at the end of next season. So I don't think he was going to get a huge payout. I mean, everybody used to say, like, yes, he's been Leicester's most highly paid manager. That's just the times we live in. But I don't, he wasn't on this 10 million a season that everybody was sort of saying he was.
I think he, more than anything, I think he's definitely, and as we've seen it and we've all witnessed, he's definitely a man of pride, and he's very stubborn. Didn't really like admitting he was wrong. Obviously, I mean, don't get me wrong. I suppose it's good personality traits to have. If you're that confident in your own ability, then there's nothing wrong with that, really. But as we've seen this season, constantly playing Danny Ward.
I think that's very harsh to call Josh that. He's only been back for 40 minutes.
When I clicked on it, I thought that wasn't good timing. But you were talking about Brendan.
Like just decisions he's made along the way, and you can tell that he's a very stubborn man. And And we've even seen in not just this season, last season before, he's made certain decisions where you think, God, I don't really see his reasoning here, and I don't really know why he's doing this, but he persisted and persisted. And at the end of the day, mate, listen, I think this season's just been a complete disaster, and I think his hands were tied to a certain extent because we couldn't in the summer. Obviously, there was no way we could back him with what's come out. But again, he's got the play. He had the players to keep us out of the position we are in, not get us in the position we're in. I mean, look, he dropped Kagla Soyuncu, who's come back and been one of the best defenders we've had all season, and he's played 5-6 games now, something like that. Not perfect, but a lot better than what we've had. Wouldn't play with refused to drop Danny Ward until 3 or 4 games before he got the sack. I'm not saying Everson's come in and set the world alight, but he's been a lot better than what Danny Ward's been. And you sort of think, had he sort of changed his mind and been less stubborn and, held his hand up and said, listen, I'm going to give these lads a go. I've been wrong about making Danny Ward my number one, not playing Soyuncu. You sort of think, well, would we be in the position we are in now?
Yeah. And apparently, it's just a breaking news. They have just released we apparently, because of course the players come out. The teams are announced, or they come out to when you're smiling just before the. Again, I'm not sure who it is. I can hear some feedback. Don't know who that might be, but no, it's not you actually, Brad. Because did you just put yourself on mute then?
It might be me.
I'll mute myself. See if you've got.
And I can. Yeah, that does help. Some things don't change, Josh. Brad still echoes.
I don't know why it does it, because it's worked so well for so long, and I've not changed the thing, and it just starts again.
It's only just started.
It's weird. It's this phone. I'm going to throw it in the bin.
But apparently, we come out, don't we? To I can't do that joke now because I've not saved it, so I'm going to have to bring that up in a minute. So let's come back to that. This season, Brad. Look, Top's been accused of taking his eye off the ball. You could say he's been let down by Susan Whelan and John Rudkin. Do you think? Well, I think I know where this is going, but I'm going to ask it anyway. He handled that whole not having the money situation badly.
I think he did. The only unfortunate thing is, no matter how much we have a fondness and love for Top and his family, there's only going to be a handful of people that know the truth. Was he never informed to pass on the message to Brendan? Was he never exactly told? Had he entrusted the likes of Rudkin and Susan Whelan to produce the finances, put them on the record, show Brendan what he's got to work with? Was he under the impression that Tweedledee and Tweedledum were actually doing the job that they're paid for? Because clearly they obviously weren't. It's so assuming that way, because it just sounds like it doesn't work out in my mind, and there's not a lot going on in there, so that's probably why. But I can't fathom how somebody who does everything, not just for this club, but does everything it can for this city, to improve this city, to take this city into its heart and do all it can, then suddenly goes to leave the manager high and dry and not tell him he's got no transfer budget till the 30th or 31st of August. It doesn't make sense. It almost sounds like that miscommunication was a case of, well, why wasn't I informed of this earlier? It sounds like two little rats have been squeaking and licking arse trying to make sure they don't get in trouble. And it's really, unfortunately, it's cost. And the thing is, though, Josh, I mean, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, because look what it's cost us as a club. It's cost us, and we talk about the Soyuncu thing. I agree, absolute bell end for not bringing him into the squad. But if you're told, you're going to have a budget and you hear nothing else, because he went away, didn't he? And he said, I've got, as far as I was aware, I was going to get a budget. It wouldn't be great because we didn't get Champions League football, but I'd have a budget. So we started planning players we'd bring in. Adam Owner Lookman, Sorry, I got something in my throat then. It's like a loan stuck in my throat. There were certain players that he was planning to bring in that weren't going to cost an arm and a leg, but they were going to, again, continue that cycle, the rinse and repeat that was Leicester. And he just kept getting told something different every week. And I think if you're the owner, and I'm not saying he was putting his feet up in Thailand by any means, he obviously had the stress of the business. Totally understand that if that business goes bust, we ain't got a club, so he can't help the club out if he's not trying to fix the problems that end. And if you pay two little rats to do a job and they don't suddenly stop doing a job and start licking arse and telling you lies, this is the problem you get. I mean, we don't have to go to bargain on and try and get. And I'm not saying he's not a good defender, but we were paying 15 million for Wout Faes. We were shopping in the Championship for Harry Souttar. We were shopping for the 19th choice Huddersfield Town goalkeeper and Alex Smithers. It just, two rats buried away in, and like rats, mate, they don't have spines. So allegedly, that's the word of the day. When Brad is on, the word of the day is allegedly. There's a lot of unanswered squeaks that didn't get sounded out, and I think Top maybe. I'd actually like if Top was very ruthless at the end of the season and said, you know what, this tit and this tit, Tweedledee Tweedledum did not let this club down. They're gone, sack them, and a bit ruthlessness, because I think sometimes he's been found wanting and not made a tough call.
For those, I only have to type that and use that banner when Brad is in the chat. But all that is, of course, hashtag allegedly. For those of you that are old enough to know the song, Can't Tell the Bottom from the Top by the Hollies will be our new walkout song, apparently. Scott says that's definitely needed to be clipped. Brad, I'm not repeating it. LCFC says, hello. How are we on this Mudane? Oh, yeah, all right, read it for yourself. I'm going to have trouble with that word. Has he been let down, Josh, by the two people that he should have entrusted to run the club?
100%, mate. At the end of the day, as you say, since his dad died, he's been trying to run the show on his own. And as Brad said, first and foremost, King Power's got to come before anything, really, because as Brad said, without King Power doing well and his business going well, the club don't get run as well as we've all lived through for the last since they came in. So I think obviously he's still got Rudkin and Susan Whelan in charge, and there has been plenty of times where we've sort of sung their praises and thought they're doing good bits of business here. But I think this season it's just I don't know what's gone on, and he's been let down massively, because at the end of the day they're employed to see the day-to-day business of the club. And from what Brad said about the old transfer fees and money and stuff, and what Brendan said he was going to be able to get and what he weren't going to get, and I think it goes to show that somewhere along the way there's been a lot of lies told, and hopefully in the future it'll all come out. I imagine at the time Brendan couldn't come out and say, well, no, Top's not said anything to me about this, so he obviously can't say that, but somewhere along the line either Brendan's lying or Top's lying or Rudkin's lying or Susan Whelan's lying. And I think in looking back now, when had as you say, Chris, had Top come out at the start of pre-season and said, listen, we can't spend because European FFP I think it was European FFP looking into us, so we literally can't spend until we can release players. At least as fans, we knew then, right? Well, we know where we stand. No use looking at transfer news and players potentially coming in, because we can't buy them until we sell. As a fan base, I think it'd probably cut him a lot more slack, and it probably cut Brendan a lot more slack, to be honest, as well, because you think, right, well, these are the players that he's working with, the same players from last season, so we know they can do a job, so maybe, get behind them a bit more, rather than being in the limbo we were thinking, well, who's coming in? Loads of, like, Forest, I know they had to sign God knows how many players because they didn't really have a squad at the start of pre-season. Looking at them enviously, thinking, well, they've signed like 20 players. How come we can't buy anybody? Because nothing was said until 6 or 7 games into the season. By then, we'd lost 6 or 7 on the trot, or I think we maybe drew 1, and we're sitting there thinking, what's going on? Like, something ain't right. And then it come out, and then you're thinking, well, nearly a good quarter of the season. We're not that far into a good quarter of the season, and we are where we are. So I think overall, mate. I mean, answering your question again, he has been let down massively, but he's got to take a lot of the blame top as well. As much as we all blame Brendan, and rightly so, because we are where we are because of his management. I firmly believe that. But Top's he's got to take a lot of criticism this season. He really has.
I'm just going to go through here though, Brad. But yes, Top does. The buck stops with him. When it comes to the playing side, whether you love him, hate him, whoever the manager is, the buck stops with the manager. That's what he's done. And as the owner of the club and as the chairman of the club, the buck stops with him. And we do give a lot of, well, we said there, Susan Whelan, Jod Rudkin letting him down. But, we've got to not forget, of course, Andrew Neville, who's the football operations director, has got a lot to answer for. Communications director. Do we have a communications director? Apparently we do. Andrew Herrley. I mean, what the hell does he been doing for his job? Because the communication between Leicester City and the fans and the press has been absolutely awful. But let's not forget, as I am looking here, the directors of the football club. There's AWAT, so Top. I'm not going to attempt the surname. Good God. There's 4 directors of this football club. AWAT, Top, Shiley Lou, Susan Whelan, and Appichit, obviously Top's brother. So there's not just him. He's got his brother involved. Other family members, I'm sure, are giving him advice as well. They've got to take their fair share.
Yeah, of course they do. Unfortunately for Top, and I think the fact that we know everything Top tries to do is with the best of intentions, and it's done with a lot of love and care. There's a lot of owners that don't care. They are just, make me money. That's what I want you to do. I'm not giving you money. You make me money. That's what us. Look at the Glazers and other owners like that. They're hated by their fan base, and Top's never made a decision without greatest intentions with it. And I think the problem is he's been pulled here, there, and everywhere, and he's probably had his brother saying one thing, his mum's telling him to focus on another. Susan Whelan's lying out of a little rat face to him about everything's hunky dory and the sun shines out of her own arsehole, allegedly. And yeah, see, he knew it. He knew I was going to say it this time. Allegedly, that everything was going to be all right, and they could sweep it under a rug. And unfortunately, and I don't know who it was who said it earlier. I think maybe a few of you have said it in the comments. The word naive thrown around, and look, I know he's a full-grown adult. He's not a child or anything. But in terms of being thrust upon the majority of the responsibility, being the face of Leicester, being the face of the King Power, he's the one that has to make these decisions. And unfortunately, business world is very cruel, Chris. You know this. Me and you, we've both been ahead of our sales teams in life. One thing we actually have in common, apart from Leicester, is being head of sales at some points. And we know we've had to make cruel decisions
in our time.
Yeah, I know. Goalkeepers unions are we? But, I mean, the one things we've all learned, and Josh, I'm sure you've learned this now, now your wife wears the trousers, right? Sometimes you've got to make bold decisions and brave decisions, haven't you? So,
and sometimes... would argue with Josh. No man would argue with him, would they?
No, they wouldn't.
I'm definitely the John Rudkin of the relationship, I'll say that.
Fair enough. But, I think, unfortunately, in the cruelest way, he has now learned the biggest life lesson he's going to learn in a business and an ownership front, and that is sometimes you've got to chuck sentiment as far as you can throw it and say, sorry, you ain't doing your job that I'm paying you for. Why am I paying you? Oh, because you're supposed to be controlling our finances. Then why did it take 60 odd days for you to finally admit to me that you'd ball something up and that we didn't have anything to spend. See you later, get gone, get by, and that's something he's hopefully learned, if nothing else, from this experience.
Do you think, Josh? I mean, I think for me, any other owner that was in this position, we basically they would be having a lot more hate. I mean, I will blame Top, and that's my right as a fan of a football club to blame the owner. Do I hate him? No, that's a completely different thing. Would I? I was talking, like I say, to one of our new presenters before we came on the show, and we don't hate the guy. We wouldn't swap him for any other owner, But I mean, was it what was it? Liverpool, I think we just played, haven't we? It all merges into one. They were shooting the t-shirts into the crowd, free t-shirts. I believe they were being thrown back onto the pitch.
Yeah.
This is something that a free beer or a free t-shirt isn't going to just sort of gloss over, is it?
It's not, mate. And, I think the comments I've said in the last few weeks, and when I've been speaking about it to friends and things like that, I'm not. I've got a few, not many, but I've got a few. And you say, I'm not fickle in the slightest. When it comes to Leicester, I'm very much a realist. With Leicester, it's all or nothing. We all know it is. You either have a good season or you have a really shit season. And we know that. But I think this season it does go back to total lack of communication. We know things are going on behind the scenes, which nothing's been spoken about it, nothing's been said about it. I think even little things like Kasper Schmeichel leaving the way he did, there weren't a really big goodbye or anything like that. It was sort of the case of God, he's actually going. This is a bit strange, nothing. I think he got a couple of Instagram posts from the club saying thanks Kasper, and that was it. But even like a big figure like him in the dressing room, just to up and leave, looking back now, you think, no, something ain't right. Something's got to have happened. We all love Top. We all love, what his family's done for us and what they continue to do for us. Because at the end of the day, Chris, like you said, we are extremely lucky to have the owners we do have. I think, we are in extremely good hands. But again, like anything in life, when the going's good, you get the praise, and when it's not, then ultimately it's down to key decisions that have been made by Top. Unfortunately, you do have to get called out on it. They've made the board and the owners. They've made far better decisions than worse decisions they have for us. But at the minute, unfortunately, I think the stubbornness and maybe, like you say, he has been let down by Susan Whelan and John Rudkin. It's going to really bite us on the arse this season, unfortunately, because I don't think even up until probably 2 weeks ago, I don't think they believe we're getting relegated. No. And I don't know how because we've all seen it for the last couple of months, really, that we were really, really in the shit. So it's going to be a big shock, a really big shock next season for the board when they see 25,000 at the King Power, when for the last 10 years or so they've been used to full house, and it's going to hit them in the pocket, unfortunately.
It is. We're going to come on to viewers. That sounds posh, doesn't it? The viewers' chat questions for us after this. But last point before we get on to that, Brad, is it again? If this had been a normal season, would he have gone earlier, or did we just sort of miss the opportunities? I mean, I was very much saying last season, look, everybody's saying, all the Liverpool fans are saying he's got to go, he's awful after 3 seasons. And I'm saying, well, let's give him a 4th season, let's see how he gets on. We finished 8th and we've got to a European semi-final. We then started awful and we stuck by him. We then had a good run and we stuck by him when the World Cup came along. And to be honest with you, that wasn't particularly a good run because the teams we were beating, no disrespect to them, were teams that we should have been beating anyway. Come back from the World Cup, awful. We had a couple of we beat Spurs and whatever in that time, but generally speaking, we got plastered by by Newcastle. Missed opportunity. We then came to January transfer window, got players in, so it was given a bit. Is this the season of missed opportunity for making those decisions?
It does seem that way, and you could go back to the evidence. The writing was almost on the wall last season, Chris. Do you remember that time that I was in Manchester, and I think we just had the most boringest game ever. We drew 0-0 with Villa, and we were raging because that was like relegation form back then, wasn't it? We'd lost to Everton, we'd drawn in the most drabbiest game with Villa. We were sliding down to 14th, and you've said it before. Putting a plaster over the Grand Canyon isn't going to cover the crack that it's made out of. And Brendan Rodgers had this annoying ability of just when you felt like the limit was reached, he'd go and win a few games. And that happened last season, didn't it? And I just wonder, and I know they say that the old Heinz Smarter Sauce is a wonderful thing. But we went on a run at the end of that season, didn't we? Where we beat the Southamptons, we beat the Watfords, and we beat the Norwich. And all of a sudden, it really did paper over the fact that we couldn't beat a cast-down Everton. We couldn't beat a shambolic Aston Villa. We couldn't beat these teams. And like I said, I think we went through that mini phase last season where it was like 8 games and we got 2 points from them, and people were calling for his head. And then, obviously, beating them teams helped us. I mean, obviously, it's all a wonderful thing to know what we know now, but it may have actually been better for Leicester's future had we continued to lose. Had we lost to Southampton, had we lost to Bournemouth and Norwich and teams like that in that late running, that might have been enough to boot the door down.
Yes, yeah. No, I see what you mean there. We're going to go to viewers' questions, and good evening to Rich. Welcome along. And we'll do that straight after this because, like I said, you can watch this on YouTube. You can also listen to it on YouTube on their new podcast platform as well.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
Something is coming. Something big.
I'm just reading here. Apparently, Leicester City £100 million action plan revealed in worst case scenario. Leicester City will reportedly sue Everton for £100 million if the Foxes are relegated from the Premier League in this season and the Toffees survive. The Daily Mail claimed that if City are relegated, they will join forces with the other 2 relegated clubs to sue Everton for a total of £300 million. It is said Leicester, Southampton, who are already relegated, Forest, Leeds and Burnley here, have told the Premier League they believe they are entitled to compensation from Everton if they're found guilty of breaching spending rules. Josh, I can't see that happening. Can you? I know Burnley were talking about it last season.
Not a chance, mate. No, I think it's. I sort of hope it's not true in a way because you are literally grasping at straws there. But going on Everton, I think I read a comment just on the screen from Scott about 10 minutes ago. I think it was Scott. Saying about how Everton sort of getting away with FFP and stuff, but which he's right in a way. I think that for the last couple of seasons they look like they've managed to swindle a few things allegedly. I will say allegedly. But he was. I think he was sort of questioning why maybe Top didn't gamble and just sign players, which. Maybe Everton do it because they've got the shrewd businessmen that can, find loopholes here and there and can get themselves out the shit. Really, I don't think we've got anybody really that clever enough that could, find a little hole here and there where you think, right, yeah, we can get away with it there. Do you know what I mean? So maybe Top literally has got no confidence whatsoever in us being able to sort of dig ourselves out of that hole. So.
Yeah,
maybe that answers that question. I don't know, but no, I don't think it'll happen, mate. again, I know, last season, I think, like you say, Burnley were looking into it and Leeds were at the time. But no, it's fairy tale stuff, really.
Yeah. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that name. But look, Brad, you sent me that message. I didn't know whether you were sort of being honest or taking the piss, to be honest with you. But I hope you feel better for that. Hey, sorry guys, it's just my toilet humour. I know it's shit, but what can I say? But just talking then, I doubt in the toilet you were able to hear the question I asked Josh, but it was a very interesting one. Leicester are joining, or could be joining forces with Southampton, who are already down. Forest, Leeds, and Burnley, who may do a separate case because they were from last season, and still in Everton if Everton don't get relegated. And you're muted, Brad.
I'm so used to having to not do it. Forget it.
Was that because you didn't want us to hear that sound of toilet after the?
Well, I can't reveal that truth now to you. No. What's the point? They won't do anything about it. I mean, look at Ivan Toney. I mean, yeah, okay, his effect will be for the next 8 months, but you talk about things affecting team seasons. Well, what are we going to do? Are you let's be honest, right? If Everton survive, right, they're already in enough proverbial behind the scenes, whether they survive or not. That's something that cannot be denied. They're in dire financial strait. They're going to be in a hell of a lot of trouble. Weirdly enough, I think even if they stay up, they'll be in a worse position than we will be if we're in the Championship next season. And that tells you how bad they are financially, looking at punishments. But what's the matter if we sue them? Carlos Tevez and Mascherano played for West Ham, and that illegally kept them up. Sheffield United got nothing but a kick in the teeth and relegated for it. So you can do what you want, but that's just two petty children trying to be petty. I mean, it might happen next season when they'll get deducted points and finally get relegated and get what they deserve, but it won't do us no favours.
No. Last one before we come on to the viewers' points. Josh, do you think it'll do us good to go down? I've said this a few times. Gives us a chance to clear the decks, get rid of the dead wood, bring some new blood in. Taking a step back, 2 steps forward, if you like.
Yeah, I think if by some absolute miracle, now I say this, I personally think we've got more chance of Michael Jackson resurrecting himself from the grave and bringing out a #1 album than us staying up this season. I don't want another season like this in the Premier League. It's been awful, absolutely awful. I mean, it's all good to say, yeah, another season in the Premier League, but if it's just going to be like this, then definitely not. Personally, for me, as I say earlier, I came to the realisation we're going down quite a while ago, to be honest. I've accepted it. Nothing anybody can say to me now. People will try and banter me, but it's just like, yeah, well, we know it was coming. It's no surprise, really. So I'll be honest, though. I think it might be I think it might be a few years before we do come back up. I think we might be in the Championship a bit longer than what we initially hoped for. Obviously we want the one season bounce back, and I'm not saying that we couldn't do that, but I think this summer it's probably going to be the biggest summer we've had for a very, very, very long time, because we've got to get the signings right. You've got to bring in players that know the Championship, that can play. As we know, the schedule's absolutely relentless. Saturday, Tuesday. It's crazy, really. You've got to get the right players in, and we've got to get this managerial appointment right. We've got to. And whether that be a younger up and coming manager, whether we go all out and we try and sort of tempt the likes. I'm not saying he's the right man to do it, but he's done it with Newcastle. The likes of a Benitez or someone like that can set up. No, it's just an example. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's right, but
no,
it's going to be a massive summer, mate. It really is, and I think if it's I'd rather us get relegated now than get relegated next season, and just prolong the pain, really, because we need a reset, a massive reset, and it's got to start early in the summer. And I mean, literally, as soon as the West Ham game's finished, we all want to hear, right, this will be linked with manager-wise, right, get them in early, get your players in early, and then start pre-season and go from there, because it's going to be huge.
Yeah. Brad, just to say, you thought you'd nipped to the loo and gone, we didn't know where you'd gone. So you can't get away with anything on this channel.
Bigger than mine.
Wow, that explains the wife.
But right, let's hit some viewers' questions here.
Don't hit the viewers, just having an opinion.
Well, some of them, I'm not going to lie.
Some of them.
I'm just going to excuse me. Just coughing there. 27 watching, and we've got 8 likes. Come on, guys, let's hit those likes. It does really. It gets the channel being seen on anybody who's not subscribed. It gets our channel seen on their homepage. So please smash that likes. It really does help. 29 in now, 8 likes. There's 21 of you not liked it. Come on, let's have a look. I'll do these alternatively. So I'll come to Josh first. James has said we need 11 Mark Albrightons. He's got a year left on his contract, as indeed has Hamza Chowdhury, and somebody again who doesn't, is not afraid of going in for a tackle. Are those the sort of players that we need? Should we take them back next season?
I'd say so, mate. Definitely. I think you're definitely going to need players with their sort of attitude. I'm not, ability wise, maybe, especially Albright. As much as I love him and he constantly gives 110%, ability wise, he's not what he was, but totally, mate. You're going to want players that genuinely give a shit about the club and are going to drag us out. Of hopefully drag us out first time of asking of the Championship. I don't see how it could hurt us at any point. I agree, mate. I think if we had 11 players with Mark Albright's sort of attitude and commitment, then we definitely wouldn't be in the position we are this season. That's for sure.
But do you think that with Mark Albrighton, he's a bit like a Jamie Vardy. I'm not saying he's past his best, but he's getting that bit older now. But bringing him on for the last 10, 15 minutes, running at the defence, getting those crosses in, maybe for Nacho, if he stays, to head on in. And Chowdhury with, who's had a good season, allegedly, at Watford. But again, we know he had a fantastic game against Liverpool, then he was never seen again. But those are the sort of players that we want, because certainly, all right, not necessarily Chowdhury, but Albrighton, he never gave anything less than 110%.
Oh, definitely, mate. And you know what? I think should Vardy stay another season, which I think he will. I think the link up between Mark Albrighton and Jamie Vardy has always been really, really good. As soon as Albrighton gets the ball, you can see Vardy wanting to make the run straight away. Plays like that could be massive for us next season. It really could, especially against a lesser experienced defence that Vardy's going to come up against each and every week. That's not no disrespect to them at all, but it could the link up between them could produce a lot of goals. And on Hamza Chowdhury, you need steel in the midfield, mate. Don't get me wrong, he blows hot and cold. We know he does, but he ain't scared, he ain't scared of putting a tackle in. He ain't scared to, he'll never shirk a challenge. He might get a few red cards here and there, but you're going to get that constant commitment in the midfield, which we've really lacked this season. It's been so poor. Players like Hamza Chowdhury, mate, I think I'd definitely keep him on. And I personally think that Hamza, he could play a big part for us next season. He really could. Because as you say, I think he's done all right at Watford this season from what I've heard. So definitely, I think he could be a big player for us.
And of course, they've both got Championship experience from this season.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, mate. Definitely, 100%. And as you say, playing that Saturday Tuesday, you're going to need them sort of players in.
Brad, another question from James here. We need to start being a feeder club and sign players who want to stay. But that's part of our financial stability, isn't it? Buying players and selling them on.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's easy. It's a lot easier said than done, and I don't think we're necessarily a feeder club to the extent of like Southampton were to, to Liverpool with their players that have gone from there to them in over the years. They were a huge feeder club. They would sell 6 players in a season and then try and find another 8 to sell next season, and it was ridiculous. And that's ultimately what cost them. Well, they've not learned from their lessons, have they? Look what happened. They dragged them down to League One, and now they're going back down to the Championship again this season, trying to do the same. And look, it's part and parcel of football. At the end of the day, we could sign 7 or 8 players of great caliber and great belief, but they're always going to have one eye on your Man Cities and now your Newcastles and that taking interest in them. The loyalty is about as realistic as a unicorn, right, in football these days. It's not there. It's just not. It's so rare to find. You've got more chance of a leprechaun walking through my front door right now with a pot of gold. No, he didn't. Just checking. Just making sure. Right. I don't like the curse of a leprechaun. But no, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, you have these clubs, our clubs are not stupid in that sense. They knew when we signed a Fofana. They knew when we signed a Tielemans. They knew when we signed a Kante. That's an infamous story. They probably knew with Mahrez as well. And again, with certain players that are still in this squad, Maddison, another one, they knew that if these players hit their potential that they saw in them in their development, because you got to remember, we got them all young. We got most of these players in their early 20s, right? No, not a chance, please, no. But these players are very young, they're ambitious, but they saw the potential that they had, that if they stayed at Leicester for 3 seasons or more, right, and they played to the full of their ability and they gave that club everything they could and they left it all on the pitch, that they could take their careers to the next level. You have to remember where we got these players from. We got them from League 2 in the French division or even lower. We got them from the Championship. We got them from the yo-yo clubs of Norwiches. It ain't like we were poaching them off Arsenal and Chelsea themselves. Where's the next step? It's your Man Cities. It's your Newcastle now. So it's never going to be a thing that we can avoid. It's how we have to be successful.
Is a financial part of the club where we buy players in for 2 or 3 or 4 million and we sell them for 30, 40 million. Unless you're a Tielemans and you want to screw the club over. I've got to say, Manchester City are currently beat in Real Madrid 2-0. Coventry are currently beating Middlesbrough 1-0. And Ivan Toney banned for 8 months. I should have had a fiver on that.
Oh, for God's sake. That's the thing, Do you reckon Ivan Toney gets given that ban if he'd have moved to Chelsea or someone like that in the January window? I'm not trying to call Big Six bias, but I'm just saying.
Josh, over to you. A question for the panel. That's posh. Scott's calling us a panel. He probably means more like a fence panel than a TV panel, let's be honest with you. Do you think since we got rid of the clappers, this has helped with the atmosphere? Do you think since we got rid of the clappers, this has not helped the atmosphere? Would it be a fact of changing the singing section? I think they brought the clappers back, haven't they?
I think they've tried everything to get the atmosphere going this season, to be honest. Get rid of the clappers, bring them back, to try, like you say, getting out T-shirts and all sorts, giving out the honesty flags that they call them. And the thing is, mate, at the end of the day, the atmosphere is only going to be good if you're playing good football. I think we can all, I think everybody in the ground and every Leicester fan can take losing. It's part and parcel of football. As long as you see 11 players trying and attempting to play, this season I take semi-decent football because it's not even been that. But when, you've got the paying public going week in, week out, giving up the free time, giving up 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday or in a midweek or whenever, if you're watching drab football, you're not going to sit there and start chanting and clapping. It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. So, Scott, mate, I mean, at the time when the clappers first come in, I think they first come in the Great Escape season, didn't they? And, they make a lot of noise, obviously, and it can be a bit of an uplift. But I think no matter what this season, mate, they've tried everything and it's clearly not worked. And I think, a lot of credit goes to the fans as well. They've tried everything inside the ground to try and get the players going, but no matter what you do, it's not going to change anything. The players, I mean, I hate to say it, they're just so far gone. It's untrue.
Yeah, and I think, Josh, you've got to see, we've got to be encouraged by what we see on the pitch. I'm sure no fan goes there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be miserable." They go with the thought, "We're going to get behind the team." 10 minutes into the game, we're 1-0 down.
Exactly, mate, definitely. And the way the season's gone, even at 1-0 down, 2-0 down, the crowd, you could try and keep going because you believe that, you can, there's a chance you can come back into the game. But the way this season's gone, mate, as you say, it's been 1-0, straight away 2-0, within 10 minutes after that 3-0, 4-0, and you think to yourself, fucking hell, like, what's the point? I'm not going to stand here singing and chanting when we're 3 or 4-0 down and we've had like one shot on target over the last 3 games. It's not realistic, is it really?
No. Okay, over to you, Brad. I think, James, again, I think Souttar and Faze are dreadful.
The thing is...
We put high hopes on those 3 signings we made, didn't we?
Yeah, but that's because we were desperate. I mean, we lost to French Voldemort. Now, whether you like him or despise him like I do, he was a talent that we somehow ripped from the grasp of a former Leicester manager begrudgingly. We took him from him, but I mean, I can't wait for next year until he tells Chelsea fans that Real Madrid is his dream move. But did we expect anything? I mean, 15 million, and then we signed Souttar for 2 reasons, really. That, if we're being really honest, we signed him from a Championship club because he was probably the only defender we could get in to add assurance to, because no one was going to come to us given the position we were in. And he kind of looks a little bit like Harry Maguire, and I think we placed all our eggs in the defensive basket. They'd be the next Harry Maguire, and I don't think they're dreadful. I think they're probably the closest we've got to value for money in terms of we've got exactly what we paid for. I mean, Wildface can't defend the ball over the top to save his life. He was shocking against Liverpool. I mean, it's his worst team to play against because he's had 2 awful games when he's played Liverpool. And Souttar's a Championship player. I mean, we talk about dodgy signings off the back of a tournament, a certain Bartosz Kaputska and players like that. Sorry, mate, you had one good day appearance for the Aussies and the Down Unders. You're a Championship level defender, and that's what we brought. Luckily, we're going back there though, so they'll be the best defenders next season. So it's okay, James. We'll be fine next season when he's back at his standard. But sometimes you literally do get what you paid for. Not every £15 million player becomes a £50 million player. Sometimes you do get your money's worth, and that's what we got in the pair of them. They're not awful by any stretch of the imagination. They're just not. They're not.
Sorry, Brad. I think just touching on that as well. I think it don't help that they've both been just completely chucked in at the deep end. Chucked in at the deep end, and unfortunately, they were both on a hiding to nothing, really.
I think so, and I think any player that comes in a winning team is always going to settle easier than if they come in a team that's struggling. Sorry, Brad, I had to mute you then because of the noise. So yeah, I don't think they're necessary. I think it's too. I mean, they've not. Let's face it, they've only been in what, January? It was February, March, April, May. They've not even been in 4 months yet. So I think we have to give them some time. Right, let's have a look at who's that. This is back to you now, then, Josh. Do you think that Top has had possibly more focus on Laven than what there is at Leicester?
No, not at all. I mean, don't. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a bit sort of not ignorant towards Lovren at all. They're not a team. I mean, I look out for the results because obviously they're sort of, if we're in a partnership with us, and we've obviously Top being the owner. But I think Top knows that, not, and it's sounding ignorant at all, but Top knows where his bread's buttered with his footballing team. We are his major project. Again, that's a good point though, Scott. I didn't really take into account, he does have another football club that he owns and he has to look after as well. But no, I think Leicester's, I mean, obviously as well as King Power obviously being his focal point in his main project, which is understandable because that's where his money comes from. But no, I think out of both the clubs, we've had more attention than Lovren, definitely.
I think so. Or let's be honest with you, we don't actually necessarily see what goes on at Laven. I never follow them at all, to be honest with you.
That's right, mate. Yeah, it's hard. I think I can understand where Scott's coming from because I think we're all just sort of looking for questions and hoping for answers that we want to hear. Do you know what I mean? So I can see it's an interesting question, but it's something that now I think he knows that at the end of the day, we've been in the Premier League now for the last coming up to 10 years next year since we got back into the Premier League, won't it? So yeah, everybody most football fans know who we are, no matter where you go in the world. But yeah, I think his focus has been on Leicester, as it's always been.
Yeah, and I'm just looking there.
Can I just quickly add on to that, Chris? Because I know I can't speak when I'm eating. That is the thing is that people maybe don't realise is we are not the only club that has a secondary club by our owners. There's a thing in this footballing world where you have a association with clubs, and normally it's like to help a lower league side out. But Man City, I believe, have a club. I'm sure there's others that can tell me that they've got others. I'm pretty sure Chelsea has a secondary club. And you only have to look at a player that's gone completely under the radar and one that's left the club since. But we have sent certain players over to that secondary club to loan our players out to give them first team football. It's like a feeder club in its own right, but it's specifically for the club that you send the players that maybe are on the cusp of getting into the under-21s. I mean, look at that American kid that we signed that everybody seems to have forgotten about. Yeah, and he went straight to them. He didn't even touch down in the training ground, did he? He had his photo taken. He was on the first flight out to Belgium to go and play for them because that's why we wanted him to. And I think people forget it ain't an investment in terms of, oh, well, if Leicester goes all wrong, I'll sell him off and concentrate on my Belgian side. No, they're there to help Leicester and give a little bit of that because they were knocking on the European door, weren't they, in the Belgian league? So there was a little bit of potential there for them to do that. Again, I don't profess to care. I'll be honest with you, or know how well they're doing, and if they have been doing what
10th in the league,
so they've had a So I don't think it's anything to do with there's a fail safe if I get tired of running Leicester City, I can sell them on and take that. No. It's there to benefit the development of players coming through if they're struggling to find them a club to get them out on loan. Or like the American, get them used to the European game straight off the bat, send them there sort of thing.
No, I agree. Let's stick with you because it's your question now. Scott's saying, do you believe as a panel we have lost too many leaders in the club and that is why performances have maybe not been at the level needed? Before you answer that, I mean, for me, Schmeichel had to go. I think we remember him for what he was rather than what he was at the end. I think he was, like I say, he was Dracula. He was scared to crosses, but he had to go. But as a leader, my God, yes, I believe we missed him.
Yeah, I think we have. I think we've still had leaders because we've still had Johnny Evans there. And, you don't need to be fit to be a leader in that dressing room, to be a voice that everybody turns around at and really listens to what you're saying. You'd like to think with how ambition he's been and the main driving force at times during our season that Maddison would be a bit of a leader in there, although you'd probably argue his head's up his own arse thinking about Saudi holidays for Newcastle. That seems to be the case this season. Vardy is a notable voice in that dressing room that's always been there. I just think maybe we have missed that type, and unfortunately we will never know if there was a plan in action. Maybe Rodgers went off a belief and an information, and again you bring it back round full circle to our first talking point about the transfer saga scenario. Maybe there was a plan. Maybe there was a bit of I've got no choice to put all my eggs in Danny Ward being our new number one because I can't go out and really replace him. Maybe there was an intention, and maybe they were eyeing up somebody just to give a fresher voice. Because again, like we talk about burnout and stuff like that, sometimes hearing the same voice, it just becomes. And Chris is going to hate me because I'm going to say a word that he can't say or pronounce when he reads it. It's mundane. Just becomes blasé to these players.
Hey, I don't know what Brad was saying.
I knew you'd do that, you horrible git. And I just think sometimes you need to freshen that voice up. So I agree. Casper needed to be passed the torch in that, not just in the dressing room leadership, but on the pitch as well. Far more complaints than praises for him last season, so the timing was right, in my opinion. I think sometimes, like I said, them voices, you get a bit, oh, yeah, we know, we get it, try, roll. I know it sounds horrible, like why wouldn't they listen to it? But when you hear the same person saying the same thing to you week in, week out, sometimes them players are like, yes, we've been hearing that for 3 years. Can we hear something else now? Because these guys aren't listening to it. And I just think we missed that opportunity to replace them voices. Someone who brings a bit of grit and someone who's going to, rumours, talks of players that have come away from the club and said stuff about him since. Kasper Schmeichel was not afraid to grab you by the scruff of the neck and say, you better pack your ideas up. And some of these players have lacked that hearing this season. I think that's what we have missed from Schmeichel.
And I think we've also missed the fact, yes, we've got Johnny Evans there, but we've missed having somebody like that on the pitch. Josh, to you, last one. Would the panel prefer to see the youth play against Newcastle or give the superstars another chance to get an embarrassing loss?
I think it all depends. Obviously, because we're the last game to play to fixture to be played at the weekend. For me, like I say, we're down, barring an absolute miracle. It all depends on what happens in the Leeds, Forest, and it's Forest and Everton. Really, their sort of games. If we're gone by Monday, I'd give the youth a chance because we'd have nothing to lose then. We'd already be down, and you might as well just see what happens. Have a look at players for next season, see who can do a job, and look at players who you're looking to move on. So, I think regardless, it's sort of the Newcastle game. It's probably bigger for Newcastle than it is for, and that sounds awful, I know, but I think because we've all in the mindset that we're down anyway, it's a game that sort of both teams have got to win regardless. Newcastle, if they win, I don't know if they play. I think they play Brighton. Is it tomorrow? I think they play Brighton.
Yes, yeah.
I think if they win that, you see, then they're guaranteed top four regardless. So it all depends on that result. But again, against Brighton, it's going to be a tricky one. But it could be a game that potentially both teams need to win. So no matter what, it's going to be a tricky game. But personally, I think results will go against us at the weekend anyway. And I think by Monday, I hate to say it, but I think I'm just sort of preparing myself for the worst. So when it does happen, it's sort of a case of, right, it's done now. I wouldn't mind seeing a few of the youngsters giving a go. Definitely. By that point, I think we'll have nothing to lose and we'll be gone by then. Unfortunately, then we could sort of say, right, it's happened now. See what happens. Go out, do what you can, play as well as you can, and then it gives us a good indication of the players that we want to keep for next season. And as I say, players that were like, nah, you've had your lot. We'll bid you farewell.
I didn't realise, but yes, Everton have got Wolves at the weekend, and if they, like you say, if they get a win, then that's good night Vienna for us, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm just looking when their game is actually being played. Saturday at 3:00. So I'm out, which might not be a bad thing. I'm out at the pub, so if it does go wrong, I'll just stay there and get pissed.
Chris, I'll be honest with you, mate. I stopped looking at other teams' results a while ago because we weren't capitalising on it regardless anyway. So it didn't really make it. It's not really made a difference, has it? Really.
The only reason I was saying was because you'd said about we could be down by Monday night, and I'm thinking, because my next question was going to be, Brad, if we lose to Liverpool, is that it? Doesn't matter about West Ham, but it's not going to make any difference because, like you say, if Everton managed to beat Wolves, we are down anyway. But I will say to you, Brad, I will ask you before we move on, if let's say Everton, I mean, I'm just looking who Everton have got, actually. They've got
Bournemouth final game of the season.
Bournemouth final game, yeah. So really, we've got West Ham final game. They've got Bournemouth. You've got to say they've probably got the better chance of winning.
Yeah, you would say that, but I'm kind of with Josh on the point. I'm just preparing myself so when it does inevitably happen, and even if Everton lose, right? Even if Everton and Leeds lose, right? I still will be expecting us to be relegated. It just softens the blow, but there's something about the way Everton have performed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Every time that they've conceded first, they've crumbled like us. So, an early goal for Wolves, and then they go in the Bournemouth game, and Bournemouth might be up for it. But you're looking at their fixtures and even Leeds fixtures, and you're thinking they're surely not going to lose both them games. And I know mathematically they could lose and draw, and we'd still stay up if we beat West Ham, sort of thing. But you're just thinking they've got something about them. They've got a little bit of grit between their teeth. I mean, Leicester ain't got no teeth. They ain't even got false teeth right now to have a bit of grit between. So does it really matter in a sense? Obviously, yeah, it does if they lose and West Ham sit on the pitch for 90 minutes and don't play football. It'll matter because we'll hopefully score at least one goal and win the game 1-0. But realistically, you're looking at it. It wouldn't bother me if Everton and Leeds. I don't know. Say if Leeds had Man City and then Man United, and then and Everton had the reverse of them too. They had Man United first and Man City. It wouldn't bother me if they lose them games because I don't see Leicester winning until maybe August the 15th or whenever the Championship season kickstarts again. That's when I'm most optimistic we'll win a game of football again.
Well, after all those questions, and there were a lot of questions, so thank you very much for asking those. Let's have a little bit of this, shall we?
I don't want to know what Brian's going to say. I'm asking you, how are we just Leicester?
Because there needs to be context, Gorinda. You need to understand why I said it.
Hang on. We made our mark in history.
Yeah.
Chelsea fan. What did we do? We made our mark in history, didn't we?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. But there needs to be some context as to what.
I think, Gorinda, what he's trying to say is that I think Brian come on and it was a very bit entitled, like an entitled fan, and saying, well, Leicester City are Leicester City. You know, there's no, they're not Man United, they're not Arsenal.
Without you knowing what Brian said, you're not going to fully understand why I said what I said.
I'm not going to listen to a Brian. Why am I going to listen to boring Brian?
You was mocking Leicester, though.
Well, so here's the deal, Gurinder, right? Brian phoned up and he said that he's not going to go. He's going to throw his ticket away. He's not going to go to the Liverpool game, and he's not going to go to any other game. He said he doesn't want to go and watch a championship game, basically, right? And that made me say again.
Go on. I'm going to be there on Monday. I'm going to be there. Leicester, Liverpool, and do you know what? We're going to get 3 points. I've actually wholeheartedly, I feel we're going to get 3 points. We are going to get
Brian's
it.
not going to be there. Brian's not going to be there.
So again, who cares about Brian?
I know, but you need to know what the conversation was about. You can't join a conversation without knowing what was said before you turned up. That's the point. What I was saying is, how dare Brian?
Elite.
How did that go for you, Gurinder? We're going to beat Liverpool. Great prediction. Oh, I've got to love it. Apparently, just come up an investigation into Leicester City's relegation rivals. Everton cannot be fast-tracked by the Premier League. According to reports, the Toffees are being investigated over the financial fair play allegation, but the Premier League cannot intervene before that has... I don't know how long it's going to take them because they've been doing it for 3 years. So I think the Premier League are hoping that...
Can you smell that, Chris? Is it chicken? No. Was it cow? No. That's it. It's bullshit. Can't get involved. Don't want to get involved. More like you bunch of allegedly money grabbing, bribing, allegedly money grabbing, allegedlys.
I think what they are hoping is that they get relegated and then it's not their problem. But we are going to try and get Gurinder on the prediction show next season. And then Steve has requested that so that at least he won't be bottom. Guys, I think, look, we'll be there next season, won't we? Rain or shine, whatever happens, we'll be following the Foxes.
No, sorry, mate. I'm too elite. I can't do it. It's me MasterCard don't allow it. Me elite card.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll do with Brad then. Josh, brilliant to have you back, mate. Thank you so very, very much. I'd say enjoy the game on Monday, but I know we're not going to. But it's great to have you back. And I think, let's just say, just for you, Josh.
You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV with Chris and Chums. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's Leicester Till I Die TV.
Just put a hat on that, and you've got twins. As Jason would say, separated at birth.
I tell you what, it looks like me trying to keep up with our defence all season. That head movement, all over the place, all over the place.
Or Facebook for the ball as well. Josh, we'll speak soon and we'll get you back on. Thanks, it's great to have you back, and thanks very much for tonight.
Pleasure, chaps. Look after yourself. Speak to you again soon, lads.
And you, mate.
Take care, you old dosser.
Oh, whoops, daisy. There we go. Thanks so very much.
You kicked him out. That's the first time Tyson's got knocked out. Stay down.
Don't be careful. You're next. Brad, thank you so very much, sir. We are back tomorrow night because tomorrow night it's the preview, Brad.
Right. Preview, not predictions. Okay.
No, it is the preview tomorrow. Newcastle away. Jesus.
Oh, I know you said it's a preview tomorrow, but I'm predicting a beating.
Yes. That's just, what about the football?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that after 9 o'clock. We'll have to wait till the watershed.
There's a lot going to be happening between now and the end of the season, depending where we are, but I think we know where we're going to be. So plans are starting to be put in place. The new look, you've seen it. I hope you like it. I've got to get rid of the Premier League trophy. there, unfortunately, and we'll have a different background. But hey, there's a new look, new shows, new channels. It's all going to be very, very interesting. And if you want to take part, and I wish I'd loaded it up, but I haven't, which is typical of me. But if you want to take part in next season's Prediction League, there's no prize because everyone was too tight to pay to take part. So it's just going to be for fun only. Make sure to follow Brad on his Twitter account, which is at Fulltime Focus. No gaps, no underscores, no spelling mistakes. So at Fulltime Focus. And be sure to follow him. Let him follow you back. And we will be telling you more about how to get involved with the Prediction League. But you have got to be following Brad to be taking part. Brad, I will see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, I will see you there at 7. I'm there for that.
Joined by Paul from the Tune Review. And the funny thing is, how different is it? Because, 15, 16 months ago, our roles were completely reversed.
Yeah, if they hadn't have struck, pardon the pun, if they hadn't have struck gold with the Saudi takeover, they would be, they'd probably be fighting it out with Burnley for the championship title this season. So I'm sure he's very over the moon that they got rescued in the way that they did. Although you could say that, minus the odd sign or two, fair play Eddie Howe. He had to work with he turned shite into a gold mine as well. So.
Yeah, this is true. Brilliant, mate. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Take care, buddy.
Take care. See you later, everybody.
At Fulltime Focus, be sure to go and follow him if you want to be part. Well, follow him anyway. But if you want to be part of the Prediction League next season, make sure you are following him. Because if you don't, you can't take part.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Thanks to Josh and thanks to Brad. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Too many to mention. Thanks to Mike and thanks to Scott for modding in there. Thank you for all your questions and for joining in. Otherwise, we'd just be three old guys sat here talking to each other. But thank you all. Thank you to everybody that's been listening via podcast, whether that to be on YouTube or on your favourite podcast platform. Please don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to get to the 2K. Make sure to smash those likes. It does get us seen where in places we're not normally seen. Yeah, that could be sound wrong, couldn't it? Click that notification bell and don't forget, join and become a member if you want to. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 for the Newcastle preview. Yeah, it's going to be horrible, isn't it? But thank you to everybody and, of course, thank you to the members. This has been LTID TV. I've been Chris. I will return, as will this guy. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too or I'll be back.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.